Did he pee on her?
No, he was screaming bloody murder, and then so our granddaughter started screaming bloody murder, so they were both screaming bloody murder. So I got to sit in my couch and video it and laugh as they're trying to get them to both stop crying. It was awesome.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's the benefit of being a grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your turn.
Yep. When they poop, when they cry, I just go like this. There you go.
Thank you. Get that poopy diaper out of here. Awesome. You are about to enjoy a Firearms Radio Network podcast. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows. If you like what we're doing and would like to help support the show, visit patreon.com/afteractionproject. If you'd like to throw us some free support and appreciation, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes. And then tonight's episode, just like every episode, is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. Be sure to check out the other great podcasts on the Firearms Radio Network by visiting firearms-related.net. And our other sponsor is the RangeBuddy.App. If you guys haven't checked out that RangeBuddy.App, I don't know what the heck you're what the heck you're doing. You can access the majority of the features of that app for free. It's a collection of over 140 shooting drills now. It used to be like 90 and then 130. We're at over 140 shooting drills. They're all sorted by the required target type and filterable by the skills worked. It is the only virtual firearms instructor out there that can call out random commands for you, followed up by a part-time buzzer. There are shoot and no-shoot images if you want to work on decision-making drills. You can incorporate random move commands if you want to work on some movement. And the cool thing about that is you can set up a predetermined movement time, or you can use your phone's accelerometer that will actually detect when you stop moving or slow down before it calls out the other random command. We just rolled out the dry fire training tool and tracker. So look for that. That's a pretty cool way to help you work on your dry fire practice. There's a stopwatch or a timer in there. And then the coolest thing about that kind of differentiates it from the other dry fire tools or apps that you might have is it's has the only shooter's metronome out there. So instead of trying to figure out the beats per minute and how that translates and the formula to calculate your transitions and your split times, you just enter the split time that you want to work on, and it will give you the audible feedback at that given interval. So check it out, RangeBuddy.App. It's available on Android and iOS. But let's get into what everybody came here for tonight. That's to talk about the retention ring within Easterday. And it's a little bit different format, but I'm super excited to get into it because I think it's a great product to, I guess, kind of kick off this new type of format and discussion that we can have, where we typically do an after action report with the student and a firearms instructor. We're going to be talking about it's not necessarily a firearms product, but it is, because most of the dudes and dudettes out there carrying a handgun for their personal protection are probably walking around with a flashlight, and maybe more importantly than that is some palm pepper spray, right? And these are two things that in the time crisis and the life crisis that might be a life-threatening self-defense encounter, if you need to get that thing out of your pocket, you probably want to hold on to it and retain it. So Dan, to get me off of my soapbox and to stop me from ranting further, introduce yourself to our listeners. Talk to us a little bit about your background in the firearms training industry. And the pre-show, I'd mentioned that I had first become familiar with you and recognized the name from the work that you had done within the firearms training community. So talk to us a little bit about that, and then your transition to product innovation, invention, manufacturing, shipping, and all that good stuff. What the heck got you into that world?
Well, my name's Dan Easterday. I am the owner, founder, creator of Retention Ring, among other things. Infamous and famous. Not really. I've been in the firearms training community. I've been professionally shooting or professionally carrying a gun since 2000, 1999 or 2000. I was in some security work, on and off over the years. And, right around 2007, 2008, stumbled into lightfighterforums.net, or lightfighter.net forums. and was introduced to a short, profane Irish guy by the name of Pat Rogers. And I started asking some questions and listening to people. And that was right in the heyday of the global war on terror. And I was quickly disabused of the notion that I knew anything about shooting and I knew anything about firearms, and that I was anywhere near where I needed to be about shooting and firearms from a proficiency standpoint. More to the point, it was Pat Rogers who said, "You have the makings of a good fucking shooter. Just shut the fuck up and listen and learn." I was like, all right, cool. And that wasn't a web conversation, but if you know Pat and ever watched any of his videos, he was an awesome dude. So started training hard. Some of the earliest classes that I had were like tactical response with James Yeager in about 07, I think it was, maybe 08. And that was pretty cool. And I just got into it and got fed more. And, I've trained with Steve Fisher, Tim Herron, Scott Jedlinski, good golly, Googly Moogly, Pat McNamara, lots of dudes out there. I'm a range master, instructor development graduate, and advanced instructor development graduate. Hopefully this in 2024, I'll complete the trifecta and go for a master instructor certification as well. In 2014, I was working nights as a truck driver supervisor, and there was a range right next to where our truck repair shop was. And I was like, hey, I could use a little bit extra money. Went over there, said, hey, you hire in range safety officers part-time. I can work, up until you're closed and then go do my job at night. And they hired me on, and I spent a year and a half there and started teaching then, kind of assisting people on the line, that kind of stuff. And then started teaching lessons and going from there. And that's when I first officially started teaching. And then I got out of it a little bit in 2019. And then 2020 jumped back into it. I was the retail manager of a firearms shop near Chicago, where I live in the northern suburbs, and ended up doing a lot of the training stuff there: gunsmith, range master, range fix it, retail guy, LE sales. Like, if you've ever worked at a gun shop, you end up wearing about 25 different hats because you never have enough staff and you never have enough competent staff. And then in 2022, I left. I did a year and a half in the dead winter of COVID, in the middle of COVID, in gun retail sales. And between the retail side and the training side, I was doing about 65 to 70 hours a week. And I burnt out. And there was some other stuff that came to a head. And so, I bowed out and kind of bummed along. And that's, I had created a company when I was at the firearms place as kind of a financial fire break. I did an LLC, went through Firearms Trainers Association, FTA, for my insurance, which if you're a firearms instructor, screw a bunch of locked in and NRA and all that, you need to be with Firearms Trainers Association. Yeah, it's $400 a year. I don't care. They take care of you. It's a great organization. It's second to none. And they're awesome. So FTA is where it's at if you're an instructor. So I had a company in the background called 11 Minute Defense that, I'd go teach lessons at the shop and under their banner, and then the owner would cut my LLC a check. And that way, if somebody ever shot themselves, God forbid, or something went wrong, I'm not on the hook for my house. Be like, hey, I'm a contractor. This is my LLC. Good luck. I'm rolling that up. It's bankrupt. Have fun. Talk to the insurance company. So also, if you're a firearms instructor, you should have an LLC. You shouldn't be doing this stuff as an independent, or you need an LLC to isolate your life, your financial life, if you care about it. So I had 11 Minute Defense, rolled out of that. And then about a year ago, I was screwing around with the Theorem LPC on my flashlights. And I was like, man, I really want to put a ring on this because I teach a lot of low light. I'm a huge nerd, and I like low light because it makes you think. You can take a really, really proficient shooter who is really good with the split times, great with the fast holster draws, can hit A zones all the time. And as soon as you turn the lights out, you can just watch their brain go blank. Because it's like they've never shot a gun before. Oh my God, you turn the lights out? What? Like, yeah. Okay, cool. Now you have to use the brain. So years and years ago, Raven Concealment had a pocket clip for flashlights, and it looks like this. And it was a little wire clip, and it had an O-ring on it. And the theory behind that was, hey, if I have to do a reload, I can flip the flashlight over my hand. UTM gun, by the way, completely empty. But I can flip the flashlight over my hand, do my stuff, and then flip the flashlight back into my hand and go. And Raven had to stop making it. They ran out of good suppliers for it. And so the market went dormant for a while. And I was screwing around with, okay, do I just, because I have a background in manufacturing and logistics. I've kind of been a jack of all trade, master of a couple. And I started looking at things and talking to people. I'm like, hey, I want to make a pocket clip. I want to, bring this back, but do it better. And I was told, that's stupid. It's a limited application thing. You're going to sell maybe 10,000, 20,000 at most. And then you're going to hit a wall, and you're either going to have to do a bunch of different models for every single flashlight that's out there, which is going to be R&D money and all that stuff. Or you're just going to run out of market room. I had a really good buddy of mine. One of my students is a super smart business guy. And he was like, yeah, this isn't the way to do this. He said, come up with something else. And so I was like, all right, cool. Therma already makes an LPC. That's their low profile clip. They've been making it for a while. They also make the switchback, which mine's across the room, so I'm not going to get that. But the switchback is a pocket clip with a big old ring on it, and it's plastic, and it's awesome. I love the switchback, except I'm a regular everyday earth person, and I don't like a big old honking ring sticking out of my pants as I'm walking around. It's kind of one of those indicators like, oh, look at this guy. He might be carrying a gun. So I said, all right, cool. How do I put a neoprene ring on? And roughly about a year ago, I started screwing around with paracord and adhesive heat shrink. And originally, and this is the part of the explanation where I have to give all of the credit for what was to come to my wife, because she's incredibly smarter than I am. Because I was bashing my brains out. I wanted to make this elegant. I wanted to make these little plastic pieces that would go into the lanyard hole of the LPC and clamp the cord, and it would be these little wedges, and it would look really cool. And I was beating my brain out because it's an asymmetrical thing, and I was trying to get all the measurements. And my wife comes in, and I'm literally like at the point where I'm about to throw stuff. I had modeling clay out, and I was trying to get all these measurements. And she's like, so what are you trying to do? And I explained it to her, and she's like, just pull the string through and tie a knot in it. And I was like, that's too simple. You don't understand. It's too simple. It'll never work. I mean, it'll work, but nobody will ever buy it. And she's like, whatever. That's just my idea. And so I did it, and I started showing it to some friends, sending pictures and stuff through the messenger and the text messages and shit. And my friends were like, holy crap, dude, this is cool. Like, you should make these. And I was like, I wanted to make it for myself. Like I wanted a ring on my flippin' flashlight. And I wanted it for me. And they're like, dude, you should make these. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing anything else with my life. And thus Retention Ring was born. We went live with our website January 28th. So we're day shy of 10 months in. I started with 3 primary types, one of which is this, what you see here, which is our open loop, which was designed for the Theorem LPC. You pull it through, tie a knot in it, cut it off, burn it down. And then we have our closed loops, which are just, it's a loop and you can girth hitch it around things. And I got a couple of different types of cord. And now I have like 140 SKUs with different models for Palm Pepper Spray, Cloud MCH lights, Mod Light Hog. I just released, and this is selling like gangbusters. These are the Multitasker Nano optics tools. And I'll demo this when you guys ask about it. But I'm selling these as a combo now on our website, and I'm also selling a ready to rock palm clip. And the other thing that we're doing is we're putting adhesive heat shrink on the pocket clip itself so that it stays in your pocket. So it started out about putting rings on strings and stuff. And then I was like, one of my good students was like, you need to figure out how to put that on a phone, because that's where the money is. because not everybody has guns, not everybody has flashlights. Everybody has a phone. So in August, we released the phone ring. It's an adhesive adapter. It goes on the back of plastic phone cases. And it lives our ideals, which is retention rings about access, control, and retention of the stuff that you need to have in your hands. And now you can't drop your phone. So that's the 5-minute elevator speech of things. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The other thing, and I don't have them with me because they're all over on the other side of it. Actually, I do. They're just not built. I will make it live on here. So we're selling these on my website. This is a revolver reload. It's Tough Products Quick Strip. And I've been selling the pre-production models on my website. What's going to happen as soon as the pre-production models are sold and I moved out of it, this is actually going to be a collaboration between myself and Dark Star Gear. And these are going to wind up on sale at the Dark Star Gear website. Tom Kelly's from Dark Star Gear has been a really, really super awesome person. Has helped me with a lot of stuff. And this dovetails a lot nicer with the stuff that he's doing in his life and through his company than it does with mine. So they're going to be the RRXQS, the RR crossed with the quick, or retention ring crossed with the quick strips, because apparently putting an X in the middle of two company names now is like
the cool thing.
The cool thing.
That's cool, man.
So yeah, we make rings on strings to put on things to keep them in your hand and off the ground.
That's cool, man. The thing about the Nano is that was my big, I will lose them. I'm like, those are way too small. So that's awesome.
Jeremy, have you seen the video that I did about zeroing with the multitaskers?
No.
All right. I'm about to blow your mind. So here's why the retention ring and the multitasker nanos are the perfect combination in the world. I can now zero any optic, just about any optic between the Nano and the Nano 2 with no support equipment at all. Okay. I don't need a bench. I can go out in the middle of a field because what I can do is hang these right off my hand here. I can take my shots, bang, 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 get my 3 to 5 zeroing shots in, walk out to my target or bring my target in. I flip the tools over into my hand. I'm going to select the right one. I'm going to do what I need to do while the pistol's in my support hand, flip it back over, and lather, rinse, repeat. And now you don't have to put the gun down, get your tool, put it in your hand, have a bench, have a backpack, worry about losing your tools. It's mind-blowing that with nothing other than these little guys here on a ring on your finger, I like to make the joke, and this is seriously a joke, so nobody take it seriously, but if I had to, I could zero my pistol on the streets of Chicago.
Sounds like it's not a joke.
For liability reasons, it's a joke.
In Minecraft, right?
Yeah, in Minecraft.
Right.
If that's the worst part about, not the worst part, but I hate zeroing the gun because I'm like, click, 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 bang, bang, bang. They got to table it, pick, that's freaking, that's cool.
Hey,
that is
Jeremy, do you want to give us an example of why you'd have to zero a red dot on a pistol for any certain reason?
Yeah, just hypothetically, you need to swap out the battery on your Holosun 507K, and instead of sticking your screwdriver in the screw to remove the battery compartment, you put it in your windage adjustment, and you crank it to the left. Who knows how many clicks?
Also in Minecraft.
Yeah, also in Minecraft.
Yeah,
in Minecraft and in real life. I'm like, and you would think that I would have co-witnessed it the first time I did that, but no, I haven't. Or not co-witnessed it, but put witness marks on the
witness screw. Yeah, witness marks.
Nope.
I was about to say, if you're co-witnessing your optics with your irons, that's a different conversation. I'll yell at you later about that.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about the art. What was the biggest obstacle that you faced bringing a product to market?
Money. I'm self-funded. I've got a couple of financial backers that threw me a few $1,000 to help get me started, and I still kind of owe them some money, but they're really cool about it. I did everything myself, and I have a lot of really cool friends with a lot of expertise. So a good friend of mine built the website and he does some back end work for some well-known gun people. So he built the website, and I've paid him a little bit. I've not paid him as much as nearly as much as I think he deserves for that, and that's going to be ongoing stuff. But like, everybody wants to do small business shit or everybody wants to be a small business owner until it's time to do actual small business shit. You got to learn how to do everything yourself. Literally, I was on IG Live the other day. I was sitting down here in the basement either Saturday or Sunday. So these are all the packaging for the nanos, and this is how you get them. Like, you can't just get the nano tool by itself. They all come in blister cards. So I'm sitting here cutting nanos out of blister cards, because the other part of it is when I ship you the nano combo, you're getting the face card for the nano, and you're getting the face card for the nano 2 in the baggie, because I want you to know, like, this is what it is, this is what it does, if you're not familiar with it. So I'm sitting here with scissors, like literally cutting out hundreds of tools and the cards out of that. Like, you're going to do that as a small business guy. So it's finding the time, it's finding the money to spin all that stuff, and realizing at best you're 3 to 4 months away from ever seeing money from the instant that you have the idea. At best, I was really lucky. I came up with an idea that doesn't take a lot of overhead. It doesn't take a lot of production. And so I came up with the idea in around roughly November. We turned to the website on January 28th, and I started seeing money pretty quickly out of that. But I couldn't have done that if I didn't have 15 to 20 years of networking in the firearms industry and friends who were like, oh, this is pretty cool, dude. Shout out to Dan Brady at Apache Solutions. Dan was my first customer, because I had told him about that a while. Actually, I'd seen Dan Brady at the Rangemaster Advanced Instructor class in Beaufort, Georgia in December of 2022. I was showing him the prototype. I was showing a couple other dudes the prototypes. And actually, this guy right here, this is the longest lasting retention ring on a Therm LPC right now. This is 11 and a half months old. So I was showing those dudes that. And Dan Brady's like, when it comes out, I'm going to be your first customer. Like, you need, before you tell anybody about it, you're going to text me, dude. And I texted him, and sure as shit, like, Dan was my first customer. So it was that networking. I wouldn't have been able to get anywhere with this idea if it weren't for a network of really, really cool people who believed in what I was doing and believed in me, and kind of my vision for, the zeitgeist behind it. But people before me laid that framework. Again, Raven Concealment with their pocket clip, and the guys that, at Theorem who developed the switchback, and guys like Steve Fisher and Eric Gelhaus and Chuck Haggard, the great low light instructors, like, they laid all the theory for that. And I was just like, O-ring and string, let's do it. And the other thing is just, the biggest obstacle is yourself. Like, you got to believe in what you're doing. You really got to believe in what you're doing and not give up hope. I'm not going to lie, like 30 to 45 days ago, I was searching for a new job. Like, I was searching for full-time work, because stuff just wasn't selling. And things finally came together where I was able to secure a credit card, because I ran without a credit card when I started the business. I was like zero debt, other than the guys who threw in on me. And Bank of America was stupid enough to be like, hey, do you want a credit card for your business? And I'm like,
yep.
Tell me more. And they're like, hey, if you spend $5,000 in the first 90 days, we'll give you a $500 statement credit. And I was like, bet. I'm going to spend $5,000 in 9 days. How about that? So it allowed me to get the Palm project off the ground, the revolver reloads off the ground. It allowed me to get the nano stuff off the ground. So, now I have credit card debt, but November's been a really, really good month for us. A lot of people have believed in what we're doing. I had an initial order of 48 Palm units, and until the new order came in this morning, I was down to 6 left. and it's only been live, I think, for like a week and a half. So, and actually what's really funny is the old store that I used to work at, I ran into the owner today, and he was asking after the business and stuff. And he had seen that I'm doing this. He's like, hey, do you have retail packaging for that? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I do. He's like, all right, cool. Send me an email. I want to put it in the store. I was like, all right. So we've got dealer networks. A big shout out to Ike Stevens from Big Tex Ordnance. He was our first internet dealer. He saw what we were doing and said, hey, man, I want to cut you a PO for some money and send me some stuff. And I was like, that I've been a customer from Big Tex since 2016, 2015. And like the day that they emailed me and said, hey, your product's live on Big Tex Outdoors. That was super surreal to go from, this customer who, and if you guys don't know Ike or Maddie out there in audience land, Big Tex Ordnance, super awesome organization. The owners are probably the best people that you're ever going to meet in the world. Super big supporters of the Second Amendment community and the firearms instruction community. So to see my stuff on their website, I kind of squealed like a little girl when I saw the webpage go live. So I mean, money and faith in yourself. Like those are going to be the two hardest things I think that you're ever going to run into as a business owner.
Yeah, you mentioned you initially made it for yourself, and in the pre-show we were talking about the RangeBuddy.App and how that initially was something that I wanted for myself. A couple of the the integrations and the features that I had in there. When it just kind of grows leg. Andy knows. Like I'll have conversations with Andy. Like we'll be talking about class coming up, and then I'm like, hey, this is what I'm working on, and him and myself and Tim Herron, we're in a group together, and I'm constantly bombarding those guys with like, hey, what do you think about this, and this? And that giddy feeling that you get. Neil Widener from ASP reached out to me a couple months ago, and he was really liking the RangeBuddy.App, and since then he's featured it in a couple videos, and he's using it with his training progression to get back to chasing the Gabe White pins. And it's just the amount of people that are willing to kind of open up their audience to what you're doing is been humbling, right? It's pretty cool. It's Neil doesn't know me from anything. He's just a great guy, and he believes in the app and the product. Dan Brady's another great dude, man. He's reached out to me, and we've talked a bunch, and he's been a supporter of the RangeBuddy.App. So it's pretty freaking cool, man. And it's a great origin story, right? And if you look at the retention ring, it's a simple product, but it's something that it's like, well, why is it now? It's 2023, and this is innovation, right? It's like if I think about I've told Andy countless times, I'm like, dude, why the RangeBuddy.App? Like it's a simple concept, a simple idea. It just hasn't come to fruition before. Talk to us a little bit about fulfillment, man. You mentioned earlier that you're a one-man show. What does the fulfillment process look like for you? Other than, have you used a can opener on the blister packs?
No, I have not, because the trick of it is, like I said, I've got to cut around this thing in order to save the cardboard. So I'm literally cutting all of the packaging off, and then when they heat seal these things, they heat seal the little hang hole on it too. So you got to pop it open and be really, really careful about how you pull it apart, so you can save this and your packaging doesn't look like ass.
Just invest in a CNC machine.
Open yet?
I have not sliced my thumb open yet, because I use my scissors and I don't drink when I'm doing this. Dude, I thought about buying a bandsaw, and then I realized I don't want a bandsaw working in my basement with all the dust and stuff. So I'll just sit here. Like I'll go upstairs at the end of the day, and I'll put stuff in bags. Like I'll put insert cards in bags, and I'll build stuff, as I'm watching TV or winding down for the end of the day, or I'll take a bunch of stuff up and cut it up, or, I'll do assembly or whatever. That's kind of the cool thing, is I can bounce around the house and, do it as I need to. But I mean, I'm always working. That's the problem with working from home is I'm always working. So fulfillment is actually pretty cool. I took one of the things, best practices from Big Tech's Outdoor or Big Tech's Ordnance now. And if you want to have a business, if you want to have a retail or fulfillment business, BTO needs to be your shining example because they just do what they do really super well. And if you're going to survive in this space now, you have to be like BTO. You have to have fulfillment speed of Amazon, and you have to have customer service like BTO. If you don't, you're going to sink because everybody's going to let it be known that your customer service sucks and your fulfillment's slow. Because those organizations like Amazon raised the bar in not a great way, but they raised the bar for time for fulfillment from the time that you order. BTO raised the bar in online. Like everybody before was like, Midway USA is like, we've got our Nitro Express shipping. I'm like, that's great. That's a UPS system sort. That's a UPS style sorter combined with automated picking product or picking technology. That's been around for a long time. Before BTO came on the scene, customer service was rough in the firearms and firearms accessories market because small business dudes didn't have that understanding of what it takes to be good at customer service, right? I think you two will agree. Across the entire spectrum, but especially in firearms, I find that there's two types of business owners. Guys who understand their products really, really well and are super dedicated and super knowledgeable, but they're shitty business dudes. They don't know the finances. They don't know the accounting. They don't know how to run a business. And the flip side of that is you've got the guy who understands business, understands how to make money, but he doesn't know jack about what he's selling, right? And neither of those two do for the most part, most of those guys don't do great customer service. Filster is another organization that does fantastic customer service because they've sunk a lot of money into that. And so is BTO. So I took the cue from BTO. I don't have a phone number. You can't call me unless you know me. Like if you know me as a person, you can call me. There's no phone number for Retention Ring. Because if I'm on the phone with somebody, as a business owner, unless I am physically making the product, picking, packing, or shipping it, I'm losing money. Every second that I am on a phone talking to a customer is money not being made. Customer service is a sunk cost. Customer service will never make you money. It can lose you money in a heartbeat. And business owners need to understand that. So when you go to retentionring.com and you put your orders and stuff in, we have, again, my website guy is really awesome. And he linked us up with a shipping program, and everything travels through and it goes into a little bucket. Everything gets analyzed. And then within 45 to 60 minutes, automatically my printer spits out a label with a packing slip. And I also get an email on my phone and it'll say like, so-and-so's put an order in, and I grin at it. I'm like, cha-ching. And I know, hey, within the next hour, I got to come down, aggregate the orders, and then I hand pack everything. I hand pick everything out of the shipping side. I've got 2 different locations in the same room that are segregated out. And because we have 3 different ring sizes, because personalization was a big thing, or not personalization, but not everybody's hand is built the same way. So we've got like, this is our large ring. This is 1 1/8 inch. The phone ring, this is a medium ring. And then we've got a little 7/8 inch small ring. And actually we can credit Annette Evans with the small ring thing, because she was like, your O-rings are too big, Dan. I don't like this. This isn't cool. And I was like, all right, cool. What if I send you a smaller O-ring? And she's like, okay. And I sent her a smaller ring. She's like, got to have that. And a lot of the females or parents who are buying it for their kids get the smaller O-rings because it just feels a little bit more secure. So I've got 3 separate areas, and everything's broken out by SKU, and literally I'll pick the order, pack it, and ship it, and everything goes out same business day. And the business day ends at about 4 p.m. Central Time. If you get your order in before 4 p.m., it's going almost always. On the website, it's 2 p.m. Central, but pretty much almost always, if you get the order in before 4 p.m. Central Time, it's going in a box, and it's going to go. I'm going to run it over to the post office and have it scanned in the same day. So, It's cool. It's great. And the other thing is I've got a 14-year-old. He's 14 now. He was 13 when we started. My oldest son is on the spectrum a little bit and some ADHD stuff. So I've been teaching him process control. So he does a lot of our packing, picking, and shipping, which is really cool. I dare people to figure out whether the other thing I believe in is like every customer who buys something from me supports me. You know, they're not a customer, they're a supporter. They're putting food on my table for my family. So they get a handwritten thank you note. You know, if I know you, like I think Andy, it was a personalized like, hey, thank you very much, Andy. Because if I know you or I've talked to you before, you're getting a personalized thank you note. And the cool thing is my kid's handwriting is about as shitty as mine. So you're never going to be able to tell the difference, whether it's me or my kid. But it's those little touches. Like you can't, as a business guy, ever forget, like your customers are putting food on your table and they need to be treated with respect most of the time. And we need to take care of and nurture those customers, you know. So I'm on Instagram a lot. I'm on Facebook a lot. People message me. I'll be in groups like Filster Concealment Workshop, or some of the alumni groups, and dudes will ask me questions or be like, hey, I've got this and this and this. You know, do you have a custom solution for it? I'll be like, yeah, dude, message me. Let's work this stuff out offline. A guy messaged me on Thanksgiving on IG with just a really simple question. And it was like 10 o'clock Thanksgiving night. And I'm sitting upstairs in the bed, just reading a book. And I hear the ping because I hadn't silenced the phone yet. And, I start texting the guy. And he's like, holy crap. Like, I was thinking this was going to be answered in the morning. I'm like, nah, dog, I'm still awake. Like, what are your questions? Let's get this stuff sorted out. I don't want to leave you hanging, man. You took the time to message me. Let's get this going. If the company grows, that's obviously going to change. But right now, the people need to be supported. My customers need to be supported just in the way that they support me.
That's cool. It's easy to forget that, man. Andy deals with a lot of the fallout from me, because it's one of those things where, on our website, they can chat to us and it hits our phone almost immediately. It hits our phone in like a minute and a half later. And, people are super impatient and they'll be like, hello. I'm like, man, give technology a little bit of time. You know what I mean? So Andy is all the time fielding those calls or those text messages. I stupidly, on that chat bot on our website, you can order a phone call, right? So you put in your phone number and it's like somebody will call you back. And
disable that, dude. Yeah. Make that go away.
Well, my favorite thing to do is to call them when they do it at 10:30 at night is to call them. I believe that the latest call I've made was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, well, if you're up, I'm up. I was working on probably doing some class prep or whatever, and it's one of those things where it does make a big difference. But as a small business owner, it's easy to when it's the 1,000th or the 10,000th or the 15th phone call or whatever it is that day, it's kind of easy just to be like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it this time. And you're right. It is, those folks are supporting you and they're putting food on your table, and it's right. The least that we can do is to meet them where they're at and reply to them. So we were talking about a couple use cases, and you sell the Palm unit, right? That's something that you retrofit, I would say, and then somebody can come in and they can buy that. Is that something where I would be able to pick up a retention ring specifically for this and do that?
Yeah. So we have two different options. As soon as I figure out how to do it, or my web guy has time, we're actually going to break a different category out. Right now, we've got our custom configurations where if you don't know what you want, it gives you all the options for a specific type. And then we've got what we call tool ready. And that would be where you could be like, hey, I want to get a retention ring directly for a Palm. We sell just the ring for the Palm. And for people who are watching and listening and stuff, the genius of the Palm design is it's all modular. So they have the pepper spray canister itself with the plastic overmold, which is your nozzle. And then you have your color ring, And then you've got your bottom cap, which is either your clip or your keychain. They used to have a third one that I'm not entirely sure that they're selling anymore that had kind of a snap hook on the bottom. And I haven't seen that one recently. So the retention ring just goes on the cylinder itself. So you pop the bottom piece off and slide your retention ring on, and then you pop your bottom cap back on. And we sell those. Those are $9. And the cool thing about all of our regular retention rings is they're all $9. If you want them from a Therm LPC or a Palm or a flashlight or anything else, it's all $9 across the board. It's the same price regardless of the configuration. We wanted to make that kind of stupid simple. So you can go get those by themselves. And then people were like, I don't want to order a Palm from Amazon and then have to order a retention ring from you, Dan, because I'm not a big fan of Amazon from the selling side. So I'm not going to put my product out there on Amazon because that's the surest way to start having China rip your stuff off. And people sell knockoffs or poorly made copies. Just ask Holosun and Trigicon. And return fraud. Like Amazon is a great company to buy from, and at the risk of offending people, they're not a great partner if you're a business. They take a lot of money and they end up like friends in the holster community stopped selling on Amazon because return fraud had happened. Somebody would buy, a Filster, $150 Filster holster or Darkstar Gear, whoever was on, expensive holster, and they'd get it and they'd throw an Alien Gear holster back in and return that and commit return fraud. And Amazon's, thing is, oh, hey, well, they returned it. You're responsible for it. So there's a cost to doing business with Amazon. But long story, sorry, I take side quests sometimes because I'm ADHD. I wanted to be able to offer a ready to roll combo, a ready baked, just somebody who's like, hey, I want the Palm and I want the retention ring on it. And then I was like, you know what? Every single Palm that I ever have had, I put the heat shrink on the pocket clip because they just fall out of the pocket really easy. And now I'm out a $13 Palm or a $14 Palm. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to sell it, I'm going to sell it like I would want to buy it. I think if somebody, and I have stuff that isn't built out yet, if somebody really wants a Palm and they don't want the heat shrink on the pocket clip for whatever reason, that's fine. I'll give you one of those. I don't care. I'll just take it from one I haven't built yet. Yeah, and that's the same. Like you can go to Big Tex Outdoors and you can buy, the Multitasker Nanos and Nano 2s separately when they're in stock. And then you could buy a retention ring separately, and BTO sells all that together. They sell those individually. But I started really screwed around. And once I reached that idea of like, oh, hey, I can zero anywhere with this. I was like, you know what I need to do? I just need to contact the owner or Multitasker, say, hey, I want to be a dealer. I want to buy a bunch of your stuff and I want to build it into a retention ring and have it as a ready to roll combo. Because actually it works a little bit better like this than here. So typically what you're going to do is if you have a Multitasker Nano already and you buy a retention ring, you're going to do what's called a girth hitch. So you run the Multitasker Nano, or you run the cord through the hole in the middle of the Nano, and then you just run the Nano through the hole the loop in the cord, and you pull it tight, and it comes like this. And that's cool, but it hangs off the middle, or it hangs off the end a lot. And when I build it into a retention ring ready-made, they just slide better, and it just feels better. To me, it's more useful in that configuration. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make it. And if people buy them, they buy them. If they don't, I am going to be the king of Multitasker Nanos here at the house for a number of years, whatever. I don't care. It's only money. So yeah, it's about a lot of the stuff that I've done is solving problems that I think exist. And then other dudes look at it and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, all right. I thought it was cool. The fact that somebody, speaking of Neil Widener and the ASP crew, I ran into them down in Indianapolis at the NRA show. Yeah, NRA annual meeting. Was that in August? Something like that. I got to meet them and was finally able to talk to them because they'd seen the retention ring with the palm and stuff. And they were a little skeptical. They're like, well, why wouldn't I want to be able to drop my palm? And I'm like, well, okay, here's a couple things. And here's kind of some insight. So from a training perspective or from an actual end user standpoint, why do we want a retention ring on a palm? Quite simply because I can configure the palm to hang in my hand like this. And if you've ever tried to clasp something in your hand, if you've ever tried to hold on to something for more than about 30 to 45 seconds, your hand starts getting irritated at you, right? Try gripping a gun, try gripping a pistol for more than 60 seconds with purpose. Your hand's going to hate you, right? Especially if you have agency stippling on your gun. And so what I wanted people to get used to the idea that pepper spray, unlike a gun, we can pre-stage pepper spray in our hands. I am not aware of any jurisdiction in the United States that does not allow you to have a pepper spray in your hand as you're walking around, right? We can't have a gun in our hand walking around. That's, brandishing or felony, misdemeanor level stuff, depending on where your jurisdiction is. To my knowledge, there's no such thing as felonious carry of pepper spray, right? It's not until you use the pepper spray that you get in trouble. So if you're a runner, if you're a dog walker, if you're at the gas station, if you're in those transitional spaces, is the buzzword of the day, right? Transitional spaces. We're walking from our car to the house, to the store, walking, to or from another place that's a transitional space. Now I can have the retention ring on my hand, in my finger, or my finger through the ring, and I can have this staged up and I can just have it loosely in my hand. And the cool part about it is it rotates. You can rotate that ring to kind of set yourself up to immediately clasp it and have it ready to squirt somebody in the face with the hot sauce. So like when I fuel up my car now, I'm not in Chicago. I'm in the northern suburbs. We don't have a lot of crime where I'm at. We don't have the carjackings and stuff, but I occasionally have to go down into Cook County into the city. And I have to go through a parking lot or a parking garage or walk down the street. And I can have this in my hand. And if I don't need to use it, I can flip it over the back of my hand. Or if I need to get the groceries out of my car when I'm coming home at the end of the day, or if I'm walking to the car from the grocery store, all I have to do is flip that over the back of my hand. I still have my pepper spray in my hand. And if I have to now, I can drop my groceries. I can drop what's in my hand, flip that pepper spray back around. And instead of having to dig it out of a pocket or fish for it at the end of my keychain, it's instantly accessible. So going back to kind of our core philosophy of access control and retention, it really fulfills all three with the palm pepper spray, but mainly it's to get the idea into people's head, like you should have your pepper spray in your hand before you ever have to use it. Like if you think that you might have to pepper spray somebody, have your pepper spray in your hand, people. The worst thing that's going to happen is you accidentally pepper spray somebody because you're freaked out of your bejesus loving mind. And you can typically explain that to the cops and not catch anything stronger than like maybe a misdemeanor, if that, because that guy shouldn't have snuck up on you anyway. So, I was able to explain that to some people and they're like, oh, now that makes sense. Andy, you were having the Mark III in your hand, right? So Palm came out with their larger sized Mark III sized pepper spray. So Palm, for those who don't know, Palm pepper spray, some of the best on the market. I really, really like it. I've been sprayed by it before. It sucks. So I don't like getting sprayed by it. I like using it. Palm put a belt clip on their pepper spray on the Mark III size. So this is bigger. It's meant to hose a lot more people down. It's less recreational and more professional, but like runners. So if you're a runner and you have a fanny pack on, you can throw this on your belt. You don't have to have it in your hand as you're going down the street. So now the retention ring to me becomes about accessing it off your belt. Cause I'm going to reach down, I'm going to snatch that ring and use it to boost it off my belt. And now I'm going to have it in my hand ready to to give somebody the hot sauce, instead of having to like maneuver my hand in funky ways to get the pepper spray off my belt and then orient my hand in a way to use it. Does that make sense?
It does. And so on my flashlight, I used to have a lanyard, but it broke a couple months ago. But that's how I would deploy it from my pocket, is I would loop my finger through the lanyard, right, and then bring it up out of my pocket that way. For me, I found it to be a more efficient way to get the thing out of my pocket and into my hand the way that I needed it to be. Similar to a draw stroke, it was just more efficient for me. So it's interesting because I have one of those, right, but it's too cumbersome for me to walk around with. But when I do take it with me, when I'm taking the kiddos on the walk, if we're walking up to the park or whatever, in case a four-legged creature wants to get out at me or whatever else. I'm not a fan of, oh shoot, there you can. I was going to say, I'm not a fan of where that clip sits, but apparently you can rotate it. So that's user error.
And Andy's got.
Oh, you went on mute, Dan.
Oh shit! I touched my cat. Sorry. Full disclosure: Andy bought a couple of retention rings for me, so that he can honestly talk about them. The other thing that I believe in is ethics in the firearms industry and product representation. I don't have influencers. I do not give my product away for people to make buzz about it or for people to post about it, because I believe in the firearms industry. Influencer culture in the firearms industry is actually kind of like unethical. It's bad because there's nothing to stop people from getting free product that sucks just to talk about it, to make themselves look better. Cough, urban carry. I didn't say that. So I have been known to give product to people. Like I'm not gonna lie. I've got friends who I'm like, oh, hey man, I'm going to send you this. I want your opinion on it. Right. But if I send something to somebody and they're going to talk about it, they're going to make a disclaimer and say, hey, I was sent this specifically to talk about it. And most of the time the guys, there's been a couple of people who've written articles straight off from the beginning about it. And in order to clear the ethical air, they'd end up buying their own, and paying for it after they got, there's a couple of guys that were in my development group and testbed guys who got sent models and stuff. And then when they finally wanted to talk about it, they're like, hey man, I'm going to send you I'm going to place an order and you're going to send it to me and you're not going to discount it and you're not going to send me freebie stuff because I want to be able to talk about it and say that I purchased this from you so that there's no ethical issues there. Companies can do what they want to do, but for me, that side of the ethics piece of it, I've seen that go bad firsthand. I had a student who damn near shot themselves with a shitty holster that was recommended by a well-known firearms industry personality. And it's a shitty holster. It's a shitty design. And he almost had a range accident one time with it and shot himself. And he came to me later and was like, hey, I almost shot myself with this. And I was like, yeah, it's because it's a shit holster. And he's like, well, this guy was on Instagram talking about it, saying it's the best thing. And I was like, yeah, it's because he's paid to do that, dude.
Was it a cross of several breeds?
No. No. And I can ethically say that because I also know people who work for a crossbreed, and I wouldn't want to offend them, but no, it was not a cross of breeds. And it wasn't a Serpa either. Those have their own problems. But yeah, like that bugs me a lot in the business when people get famous. John Correa from Active Self Protection is one of the most ethical endorsers of products that I've ever seen. And I think more people should be like him.
Yeah, I talked to Neil and like it's hard. Like you really have to twist. Like I really had to twist his arm, and I'm like, dude, it was it's $15 a year or it's $3 a month. Like and for me as somebody who's developing this, right, there's about a dozen or so people that I reached out to, and I said, hey, I want to I'm going to set you up with the premium features because I want your honest feedback on that stuff. For me, it's more like their feedback is more valuable than any fee that, any money that I would collect from them. And that's one of the things that, I talked with Neil about, and it's like, dude, the app is what it is. I really would like some honest feedback, because in my mind, Andy hears it all the time. I'm like, dude, the app sucks. I'm the only one that likes it. You know what I mean? And I looked today and there's over 5,000 users, and I'm like, it sucks. I'm the only one that uses it. And I don't even use it that often because I'm sitting here trying to figure out the next great update to roll out and everything else. But yeah, those dudes are some, as we were talking, because we had them on and we were discussing their instructor development program. And it's one of those things that's not where John makes his money, right? He doesn't need to do this other stuff. He doesn't need to be paid for product reviews. So for the fact that he's going out of his way to make sure there's transparency there is pretty cool. Yeah. One of the things that I found is it's hard. I don't know how to market in today's society, in today's age. So talk to me a little bit about the marketing that you've done, what that looks like from you or from your perspective.
Whew. This goes back to that whole, what are some of the most difficult things when you're starting out, marketing? Like, oh boy. I have maybe 1,500 followers on Instagram. I've got a really good friends network on the Facebook side. As of right now, I've paid a grand total of $60 to Meta for marketing, and that has been marketing. That's the only paid marketing I've done. Everything else has been ground up guerrilla marketing on Instagram and Facebook. There's some stuff that's going to come down the pike with some email inclusions and some other stuff through the graces of a company that I know some people in, and they're going to do some really cool stuff with us, and that's going to cost some money. But dude, marketing, and that's why the influencer culture is so pervasive in the firearms industry, is because you've got the content creators who all they're about is getting free stuff or making money or the dopamine hits of followers, right? So that whole subculture is built up there. And, I've gotten messages from people like, hey man, if you send me this, or we have 180,000 followers and we will include your product in 15 posts over the next 15 days if you want to pay us $150. I'm like, no, I'm cool. Thank you. Because that's all they're going to do. That's all that they're just about making themselves more. They're not about building up the community. So instead, I got really lucky, and a couple of people in the knife scene and the small custom knife maker scene. I wouldn't even say small on one guy's, but Matt Helm Knives and Dauntless Manufacturing. I've known Matt through reputation on the internet and through the circle of training friends and stuff for a while. And I started collecting his knives recently. And if you don't know Matt Helm Knives, the Dogbone and the little mini Dogbone K are just, I love these knives. This is my favorite knife. This is the little Dogbone K. And I put a ring on it because the sheath is really small. Or it actually covers up most of the knife. So I put a ring on it so I can get the sheath out. And then Matt Helm's like, bro, that's totally awesome. And then he put in like a large order just for his knives for him and his family. So like Matt Helm, Angler Knives, Offensive Industries, who makes some really great sheaths and some great knives, Compliance Edge, some other companies out there found me. And then they were like, hey dude, do you have a dealer program? Or like, I want to integrate, retention rings into that. And I'm like, yeah, dude, here's our cost structure. And at that point, that's where you say, hey, you know what? Before you buy my product, I'm going to send you a couple of samples. I want you to try them out. I don't want you to spend your own money on this and not have it work out, right? And they liked it. So my marketing is all guerrilla. It's all ground up. which sucks because I'm not getting the push and the views and the follows and all that stuff that other companies are who are paying for it or who are using the influencer network. But instead I'm relying on people who, you know, will go out and use the product and will talk honestly about it. And I think that's the best marketing. It's not the fastest marketing, but the best marketing is those people who are going to sincerely, you know, go out and say, man, I paid for this, I'm using it, and I think it's freaking awesome. And here's why. So I've been really lucky. Like my entire life can be summed up with the simple meme from George of the Jungle and Brendan Fraser. And I look at my life and I'm like, George just lucky, I guess. You know, and so, you know, I think a lot of the stuff that's going to come up, another great marketing thing, and I got to give a lot of props to Jacob Paulson and concealcarry.com. He approached us about getting the product into the Guardian Nation box and also about being a sponsor for the Guardian conference. And that was huge for us. That was actually a huge bump in September, October for us. Went down to Oklahoma and hung out at the Guardian conference for a few days with them, and really got the product in front of a lot of people. There were about 100-ish attendees, and then a lot of staff. You know, Riley Bowman's there, AJ Zito, Mickey from Carry Trainer, Chuck Haggard, lots of dudes there. So getting product in front of people and getting to see that. So Jacob and concealcarry.com, those guys, you know, gave me the opportunity, and Jacob said, hey man, you want to sponsor it? And I'm like, yeah. How much? He was like, this much. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So I'll be sponsoring them again next year. It was a great, it was a great weekend just to be able to talk to people, because people are like, well, who are you? What do you do? What are these things? And I tell them and they'd be like, oh, that makes sense. You got to grind though. Like marketing for me, it's like an hour to an hour and a half a day on social media, just trying to create content, trying to grab somebody's attention to hopefully convert, I don't know, maybe 1 in 100 views, like as you're scrolling through Instagram, and you see that stuff, you know, maybe 1 out of 100, maybe 1 out of 1,000. No, because I'm not getting thousands of views a day, but you know, to get that to convert into that sale. It's a grind. I'm trying to create at least one unique piece of content every day, 6 days out of the week. And it sucks a lot.
It does. And it's, one of the things that, you know, I kind of go back and forth on consistency with our social media stuff, specifically for the After Action Project. And that's, as far as creating content goes, with AI, there's a pretty simple process, right? I can upload a video into a couple different clip generators, and it analyzes the video and it spits out, you know, 20 or 30 different clips. And then I just have to go through there, tweak the edits and stuff, and manually post them. But it's, you know, I'll go hard for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it'll be like, oh, you got X amount of new subscribers. And I'm like, man, that was a lot of work for a little bit of effort, or you know, I guess what I perceive as, not a huge return on that time investment. And it's,
Yeah.
You know, with the RangeBuddy app, one of the things that I'm because I part of me wants to go, I wouldn't mind partnering with an influencer. That there are a couple influencers out there that I believe are ethical and do it the right way. But just on a larger scale, and I think it has to do with my like imposter syndrome, right? It's like I have no business doing this. This app sucks. What the hell am I doing? You know, yeah, people are downloading it and signing up for it, but are they using it? You know, and I guess what it is, maybe I'm not seeking, you know, that shining endorsement. Maybe I'm waiting and anticipating for somebody to say the app sucks. What the hell are you doing? Like, you fooled a bunch of people. But the marketing piece is one of those struggles, and it's how do you do it in a day where the number one advertising platform are the different social media platforms that you have out there, and it's not they don't like what we do on this side of the fence. they'll take your money, because I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on advertising, you know, on the firearms training side of things. And we've been pretty successful with that. I think we you know, our cost per acquisition is within reason of what we're looking for. Of course, it's not as affordable as word of mouth. But it's one of those things where it's a constantly moving goalpost. And you're just, hey, this is a product that is inexpensive, right? $9 is you know, if I'm looking at this, it's probably about $4 or $5 less than what I get, like a MSRP. Like if somebody showed me this and they're like, hey, and they're like, yeah, it's $16.99. I'd be like, oh yeah, there's value in that. That's price. So the fact that you're selling them at $9 is pretty cool.
That's been a point of contention with some of the smart people that I talk to. They think I'm undervaluing it in the same stroke that I'm like, a regular palm pepper spray costs $13, right? $14 retail. How can I, like, and it's a little bit of the imposter syndrome from the product standpoint, but it's also like, I'm going to have a really hard time convincing somebody that the ring itself has more inherent value than the pepper spray. Pricing has been a thing. I'm not going to lie. When we came out with the phone ring, I priced it at $15. I was like, I looked at pop sockets and ring sockets because I hate pop sockets. I loathe pop sockets. And sorry, it's my kid texting me that he's going tonight. So I loathe pop sockets and stuff. And the cheapest of the pop sockets or ring sockets are typically about $10 on Amazon. And I was like, all right, cool. I want to price myself more than that, but you know, not. We sell the phone ring now for $25. I had to put more money into it. There were some cost adjustments and some materials things that had to happen. But at the same point in time, this thing pays for itself the first time that you don't drop your phone and you don't know it, right? How you can't quantify that. And so from the RangeBuddy app side of it, right, you've got to look at that. What is the value that you're actually bringing with your product? Is it worth that, or is it worth a whole lot more? The problem that your guys are going to struggle with, and Andy, I think you know this really, really well, is you know, on the RangeBuddy app side, your market is super limited because there's maybe, dude, if it's more than 3 to 4% of the gun owning population that actually takes their training seriously, or their skill, and not even training, let's fuck a bunch of training, right? But just skill development and skill building. That's maybe 3%. I mean, what do you think, Andy? 3-5%?
Yeah, I think that's the statistic, that it's around 4%ish. So we'll meet it in the middle, and I think that's a good solid answer.
Yeah. So, you know, God bless you. I mean, dude, Jeremy, God bless you for you know, as Wesley Snipes and Blade put it, some motherfuckers always want to ice skate uphill, right? You are ice skating uphill, and I'm going to be completely and totally transparent. One of the reasons that the revolver reload strips are going to Darkstar gear is I have been very careful to keep my company as close to the line of gun community adjacent as possible without going over that line. Because as soon as you step into that gun world, and we saw it with Magpul with their phone cases. Magpul made some of the best freaking phone cases on the market for a good while. And the problem with Magpul, or why they stopped doing that, was twofold. One, the R&D costs were incredible because it takes, on the injection molding side, probably 3 to 4 months to spin up the production and get the quantity ready that you can release. But we've got companies that are releasing phones every year, which is why I designed the phone ring as a non-phone company or phone model specific thing. We're just going to stick it on the back of any plastic case and let the case companies deal with that R&D. The other problem that Magpul had is they were never going to be mainstream because they were primarily a gun products company. And you're going to have those market segments, probably 30 to 40% of that market segment is going to be like, gun company making phone cases. Nah, dude, I'll go buy Pelican. And I'm like, Pelican makes gun cases. Hypocrisy, whatever. But so that's, I'm trying to ride a very fine line with Retention Ring because I'll be nakedly honest about it. This is where the money is. The cell phone accessory market in 2022 was $84 billion with a B dollars. And case accessories were roughly a quarter of that. So that's $20 billion market share. The gun community can't compete with that. Right. Actually, Jeremy, what I would be thinking about with you, have you played with Blaze Pods at all?
Not personally, but I've seen, I've talked with Mike Oxton. I don't know if he uses a Blaze Pods or a similar product.
Dan Smith from Centrifuge is a
huge
Blaze Pod.
Brandon Powers is another one that I don't know if they're Blaze Pods or if they're one of the, I think there are 2 or 3 companies that make a similar thing. And that's part of the, so I sent out an email to our RangeBuddy users a couple months ago, and I was like, hey, one of the next big updates that we're going to roll out is an integration with the shot timer. And then, so that is in the works currently, but between that conversation and where I'm at today, I have 3 or 4 other big updates that I want to roll out to the RangeBuddy app to really, just a value add. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, he bought a couple new guns or whatever. And so he was asking about the RangeBuddy app. And I'm like, or no, maybe I mentioned it to Tim and Andy. And I was like, yeah, it keeps growing legs. So maybe next year I'll break even on it. But it's a passion project for me. It's something that I think, does provide value if you're going to use it. But at the same time, I'm fully aware that in the gun industry, we don't train. We don't really practice. By and large, it's let me go out there and spend $400 on a gun or $500 on a gun, and then I'll bitch and moan about a $500 2-day class. And it's, it's a limiting factor. I think the RangeBuddy app will gamify some of the training and will hopefully, if you're going to go out to the range and shoot your gun, if you load up the virtual instructor, that's a fun way to spend a couple hundred rounds of ammo. And if you do it right, there will be some training benefit from it. And then the dry fire component, the airsoft component. But yeah, it's at the back of my mind. I'm like, I'm going to look back on this deal and I'm going to be like, man, I sunk a ton of money into this thing. And it was, does it have the impact that I want it to have the impact on the community, right? Because for the firearms training industry, I want it to be something that that encourages and gets people out there to the range and practice. I'm not going to call it training. It's not training, right? But get out there and practice so that they are better with their handgun if they ever need it. And that's kind of the holistic approach that I have to it. And we'll see what happens.
No, and I got to say from the outside, right? It's the hardest thing in the world for us is, you talk about the imposter syndrome, and I see that, as an instructor at a couple, I've had that for sure, standing up in front of a group of people who are looking at you like you actually know what you're doing. And especially when it's the first time that you've rolled out curriculum in front of people that aren't your friends. And you're like, these people are paying me to do this. Yeah. Losers. Sorry to channel a little Steve Fisher there. But, from the outside, I could tell you, you were cool enough to get me in on the, kind of the beta testing portion of the RangeBuddy app. And I used it a little bit, and I didn't give you the feedback that you needed because I'm ADHD as fuck. And, follow through is a big deal for me. Cause I have problems with that. Like, hell yeah, dude, I'll try this out and give you some feedback. And I try it out and I'm like, man, I need to call that guy and give him feedback. Oh, squirrel. So I apologize for that, but no, dude, I think it's a great thing. And it's what you've got going on there fills a place between something like the ASP Unlimited channel and the Mantis system. Mantis X is cool. However, it is not an inconsiderable amount of money to spend to get into it at the top end. And the problem with Mantis X that I've seen from the student side of it, or as an instructor from the students who have bought the Mantis X and brought it to me, about it, like, hey, you're going to do this, this, and this. Unless you truly understand shooting, it's really easy to misinterpret the data that you're getting from Mantis X. Like, you've got to be really purposeful, and you've got to understand, you have to have a fairly mid to almost high level understanding of what Mantis is trying to tell you in order to actually make improvements with Mantis. I think, from what I've seen, and I've got a Mantis X system, and it's cool. I use it. But the RangeBuddy app is cool because, again, you can use it from the dry fire side. You don't need the equipment support. I like the virtual instructor thing. I have a hard time, I hear Claude Warner in the back of my head, the tactical professor, saying, all right, Dan, every time you go to the range, you need to have your purpose. Like, you need to have your plan, and you need to have it planned out, and every round's going to be purposeful and stuff. And like Aaron Cowan said in one of his videos, Zen and affirmation, sometimes you just need to do mag dump into trash, right? So, like, I think there's a lot of value. So don't get down about yourself. Like, I do it with the rings. Like, I look at my stuff and I'm like, holy crap, these are just rings on strings, man. Like, this is stupid. But I'm making money off it. Like, it's sort of, some people don't think it's stupid, I guess. The same with the firearms training community. I got, what really pushed me into a level of accountability as a product maker and an instructor. I was teaching force on force for a while, developed a curriculum with a couple of really good friends, and we did a course almost 2 years ago now. And we had done back-to-back weekend with our level 1, which was called So You Think You Can Carry. It was an introduction to decision-making and force on force. And it was one of the only, at its time, when we put it out in about 2018, 2019, it was one of the only force on force programs geared towards somebody who had only ever had a level of training of a concealed carry class. Because we wanted to get people to understand, like, you got to go train. You can't just, so you think you can carry. Like, you went and you took your Illinois concealed carry permit class for 16 hours and you shot your requisite 50 rounds or 30 rounds or whatever the hell it is, right? You're not ready to carry, dude. So we had done a series of classes, and we had some regulars, and we did a back-to-back, and then we came up with another class, a level 2 class called Everyone Has a Plan Until You're Punched in the Face. Mike Tyson. And so we did the level 1 on a Saturday and the level 2 on a Sunday. And one of our repeat students had came back and done level 1 on Sunday or Saturday and the level 2 on Sunday. And Monday night rolls around, and I get an email as I'm going to bed at about 10 o'clock at night. And it's one of my students. And he said, hey, man, I just wanted to talk to you about the classes this weekend and what happened. I'm like, oh crap, he's going to have something negative to say. Like that was his like intro paragraph. He's like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about the classes and what just happened. And it turns out that less than 24 hours after he left our class on Sunday night, a guy high on PCP tried to kick down his door at random to his house. Our student lives with his wife, no kids. They have a dog. And the guy had ripped the metal screen security door off the house and threw it into the front yard and was proceeding to kick the door in. And my student had yelled at his wife to call 911, had got his gun, and his door is one of the, it's got like the 3 little windows, the ascending windows in it and stuff. And so my student could see PCP head on the other side, and the guy's trying to kick down the door. And my student ended up, coming straight out and presenting, again, guys, UTM gun, completely unloaded. I know people don't like looking at muzzles. So he put the gun out and he aimed it at the head because this door was starting to bow in. Like he was starting to see street light on the other side of the door. Aimed it at the guy and yelled at the top of his lungs, "I have a gun, and if you come through this door, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking face." And something happened in PCP head's reptile brain that like put up the danger Will Robinson side. And the guy went from trying to kick his door in to beating his head on the door. And the cops arrived 8.5 minutes later and finally took the guy into custody. So like it's 10:30 at night. I was seriously like at that point where I was about to fall asleep and I'm reading my student's email. And I've got adrenaline now because I'm reading through the story. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, did he shoot him? Did he shoot him? And he didn't need to shoot him. And the student comes back and says, "Hey man, if I hadn't been through this force on force class within the last 48 hours, and if we hadn't talked about what we need to do from a decision-making standpoint in order to clear all the hurdles to use a gun in defense of ourselves, I think I would have fucked this thing up. I think either this dude would have come through my door or I would have shot him in a way that would have left me exposed to potential criminal or civil liability." And that was a huge moment. Because it was like a validation of like, all right, cool. I'm not just an idiot teaching people about guns. I'm still an idiot, but I'm teaching people about guns the right way. So there's that validation. Recently, one of my other students who moved out of state did a public post, and he's a very private guy. Ended up using his palm on his retention ring to hose down an attacking dog. It was out. My student was walking his dog, and rogue dog came up and started charging. And my student managed the situation verbally, and bought enough time to get he had his retention ring on his pepper spray right in his hand, and just ended up squirting the dog with the hot sauce, and the dog ended up running away. I think, Jeremy, that you're going to end up hearing stories like this from people who have used your stuff, where they're going to be like, "Hey man, I was at the range, or I was at this class, or, I did this or this or this," and they can link it back to the meaningful impact that your product has made. Right. And that's what we as and inventors and business owners and stuff and trainers, firearms trainers, coaches, that's what we have to look for, right? That's what we have to live for, I think. Because I think that's what's going to keep us going. And so don't discount, because I have the same thing. Like, dude, I'm just an idiot. I'm making stuff and people are buying it. I've somehow convinced people to buy this stuff. Your shit's valid, dude. If you've got, I know the people who are talking about your stuff and talking about it as a value add. So don't doubt that.
I appreciate that. And it's one of those things, it's a simple product, but it's a viable product. And it's one of those things that, I was messaging Andy and I was like, man, it'd be really, I was like, it'd be cool to have a customer on. And he's like, dude, I'm a customer. I'm like, oh shit, that's right. You just told me, right? He messaged me a couple days ago and he's like, dude, I picked up a couple of retention rings. I got you one. Because that's a thing that Andy and I will typically do for each other is if I'm buying something that I think is cool, I'm like, well, shit, Andy's going to think it's cool because he's as big of an idiot as I am. So, Andy, talk to me a little bit about, man, what the heck, man? Why'd you pick up a couple retention rings? What's your use case going to be for it? And what's your experience so far?
I'm going to be honest that I really didn't have a reason for these retention rings other than I just saw Dan everywhere posting these and like trying to get his product out. And I was like, dude, seems cool. And I went and looked on the website and I was like, they're $9. Like, I got $9 in my pocket. Why not? Let's try it out. So I reached out to Dan. I said, hey, I'm going to order a couple of these. And he's like, okay. So he sent me a bunch of links and stuff. And I'd like to be the cool guy and sit here and say, I purposely ignored everything he told me and I just ordered whatever I want. But honestly, I was busy. And so I said, I'm just going to order these things and then I'll play with them when they show up, whatever. Just had a new granddaughter come in our life last week. So I really haven't had much time of anything As soon as I got the retention rings, and I was like, ooh, cool, these are neat. So I went and grabbed my palm, right? And I do carry the big one, actually. Jeremy, you guys were mentioning about how it's kind of professional use. I throw this, it's in my pocket every day. I wake up in the morning, of course, because at my work, I can't always carry a gun. So alternative, I carry pepper spray in my pocket, right? And it's the big juice. So I can spray a couple homeless dudes if I have to. So that's kind of my thought process on the deal. But I was like, I'm going to put this on. And then I realized I actually put the O-ring around the pepper spray. And then I had this rope loop. And I was like, this actually kind of works. But you got to get your finger in it like if it's in your pocket. So I've been messing around with it, right? And I'm like, I don't think this is how it's intended to work. So I started messing around with it. And so I was like, I have an idea. Dan sent me a whole bunch of links on how to do this. Maybe I should go look at them. So I went and looked at them, checked them out, and I said, oh, yeah, it is backwards shit. So I flipped it around, and I've actually been carrying it for the past couple of days like this. Now, I do have some suggestions and some questions, and maybe, Dan, you can tell me why this is good or why this is not a good idea. Because I did not go to anything and look at anything. I just bought them, right? So when I got them in, I get this cool package, right? And it's got a QR code, right? QR code says, scan the QR code with your phone's camera to get started. So I scan the QR code and it shows me a couple videos, but the videos it shows me are not the instructions on how to put these pepper sprays on. So that's my first suggestion as a customer. That QR code needs to go to that Instagram video that you sent me in the link that I didn't watch to show me how to do this. Because I was like, okay, now it's got a zip tie. I don't know what to do with the zip tie. So, which is, again, I put the O-ring on backwards. So again, my fault. My brain works kind of backwards from everybody else, I think, because I always do shit backwards before I figure it out. So that's my first question to you, Dan. Can you make that QR code go to a video that actually explains the instructions on how to put it on? You're muted.
Still muted.
Still muted.
After he answers that, I want to follow up. There we go.
I can do that. I'm going to answer you in the most brutally honest way that I can. When we came out with the product, we had 3 applications for it. So the QR went to the instructions page, and it was a way for me to cut down on printing costs and not have to have a QR code for every product. We have to change that now because I've got so many different applications. And unfortunately, I had a lot of labels and a lot of legacy bagged products sitting on the shelf. And so some people are going to be victims of the institutional inertia of my product labeling and all that stuff. And that's one of the things that we're going to try and work on the back end, is to link those support items together a lot better. One of the things that's happening actually is our packaging is moving, or not the packaging, we're getting away from a label on the baggie to a cardstock insert that's going to go into the bag, because we're looking at some retail stuff as well. And it's just going to present better. And that's going to give me the option to expand or to start specifically making QR codes. So what we're probably going to have is QR codes for the 2 pepper spray versions, and then QR code that's going to go to the one specifically for flashlights, and a QR code that'll go to stuff specifically for tools or other stuff. That's in the works. It's just, unfortunately, I got to work through. I'm either going to have to sacrifice the money that I've spent on all the labels and just throw those in the trash. I'm an inherently cheap person. So that is coming, and I'm trying to work. YouTube sucks to try and be a hub of information. It's so much easier for me to make a video on Instagram and have it there. So Instagram's kind of become our repository of knowledge for my company. And it sucks because Instagram controls that, and it's hard for me to link that over to the website. So I'm trying to build that out better. It's just going to take a minute. But that's also why I try to have that personal touch with the customers. And you're like, hey, man, I want these for the Mark III. And I'm like, crap, he's going to want it for the Mark III. And I've got to get that. So that's why I got in front of it and was like, here's a link, here's a picture, here's a link, this is a video, watch this, do this. And then not you,
I
but
didn't.
just, yeah, you did.
Well, nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody does, and that's the thing. But I wanted to, two things. Remind me in the post show, Dan, because I think I have an idea on that QR code thing and the video thing, just through my trials and tribulations and mistakes that I've made and the headaches that I've gone through. Because part of the deal with bootstrapping an operation is, it's a great solution until it isn't, and then you have to go back and retool everything, and then now you're trying to decide, hey, do I need to? I have X amount of time to do this, this, and this. Which of those items is going to be the least amount of friction? But I can tell you, Andy has a freaking knack for this stuff, dude. And it's one of those things where it's like, if I can get something in front of Andy, it will save me a ton of like follow-up emails and DMs and everything else with other folks. And it's uncanny what he does is he's able to say, hey, you didn't think about this. And it comes from that purely user standpoint where the biggest problem that I have is everything that I want to do makes sense and it should make sense to everybody. And then I start talking about it and I put it out there and it's like, oh no, it only makes sense to me because I've been literally fantasizing about this and daydreaming about this and running through it, the production of it for the last 5 freaking days nonstop. And I've already worked all those things out. So if anybody ever out there needs to dial in on some stuff, send it to Andy. He's going to get it figured out for you. And I promise you, he will find something that you did not think about. And it will save you a ton of time and energy and effort in the long run. But Andy, let me kick it back over to you. Cause I know you, I think you had another follow-up.
Yeah, I have a few more things. So first of all, thank you for that. If I could figure out how to get paid to do that, that'd be amazing, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to call out Neomag. When I first got the very first Neomag, right, I got it, put it in my pocket. I was like, this thing is cool as shit. And then my Glock mag kept falling in my pocket. And Jeremy, I can tell you when this happened, we were in Colorado Springs taking a class that we won't speak about. When we were sitting there for dinner, we were talking about the Neomag, and I was like, this Neomag is cool as shit, but it doesn't have enough magnet power for the Glock. So I reached out to Neomag and I was like, hey guys, you guys need to add another magnet. And they're like, oh no magnet. This is fine. We have no problems. Guess what they have now? They have a Neomag with extra magnets. So I'm like, y'all need to pay me for that. So you owe me. Anyway, moving on. The second question I have on the pepper spray, you send a little zip tie, right? So you slide the string over the top of the can, and then you wrap the zip tie around the string. You tie that and you cut that short. Make sure you cut it flush. Otherwise, you're going to slice your hand open. That's just because I know about zip ties. My question to you is, what if you added a second piece of heat shrink that you could slide it down and then heat that heat shrink up to tighten it over? Will it be strong enough to hold?
It will. However, the vast majority of people don't have a heat gun, and they're going to try and use a lighter, and that nylon cord is going to melt at like 750 degrees, I think. I've learned that the hard way. I actually have to have a heat gun that has adjustable temperature on it so that I can effectively use the heat, or I can heat the heat shrink without melting the cord. Because I went cheap on the heat gun when we started the company. I had one of the cheap Wagners that like has an on switch. And I quickly learned like I had to be 8 inches off the heat source, and only for 30 seconds, because I was melting cord like nobody's business trying to get heat shrunk. So I'm looking at that. The zip tie, I think, is a less elegant solution, but I think it's a more practical solution because it also allows you, it takes that specific 8-inch cord length model for the Mark III, and it makes it a little bit more versatile. Now it's not just slaved to the Mark III. If I include that zip tie, and that's one of the things I'm thinking about in some of the utility links, is just automatically including a zip tie, and people go like, why do you have a zip tie? I'm like, I'm throwing it in there. It's literally a tenth of a penny. Like, do with it as you want. Because it makes the product a little bit more versatile. Because you can use it. I have too many flashlights.
While you're looking there real quick, honestly, I haven't even put the zip tie on it. and it's been working fine for me. It hasn't come off. So I was even thinking if you made, and we're talking like now millimeters, right? You take that cord and make it just a tiny bit smaller to where you actually have to kind of like stretch it over there. I don't think you need the zip tie, to be honest.
You guys know Tim Kelly from Apache Solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The zip tie actually came about because Tim Kelly was one of the first people to get his hands on the Mark IIIs. He was the one that told me that the Mark III existed. And originally I wasn't shipping it with a zip tie, and his complaint about the way, so if Palm were really smart, they just buy a bunch of retention rings from me and they put them on before they put the nozzle on.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I can't really complete that sentence. So without offending people. So I actually, theoretically, there should be just a little bit of effort required to slip it around. If there wasn't, that means the mandrel that I'm making these on is just a little bit too big still. I have machined mandrels that I use for sizing guides to make sure that the critical dimensions are held. So that's a good piece of feedback. I'll probably have to shrink that a little bit because it should be a little bit on these Mark IIIs. It should be a little bit tight. You should have to work the ring around. But Tim Kelly said, hey, man, you need to tighten this up because there's just way too much wiggle. It's flopping around. And his point, and he made a really good point. He's like, look, I want to be able to hang this on my belt and have this ring indexed in a consistent point. He said, I want this to be a gun in a holster where I can have it in the same spot on my body when I'm running 100% of the time. And that ring is going to be in the same spot on the canister 100% of the time instead of it just flopping loose. And he's like, you could try it with tape. You could try it with this, with that. And I was like, what if I just give you a zip tie and you run it all the way up there? And he said, and he's like, homie, easy day. So that was kind of the rationale behind that. I am always open to product development ideas, especially if it makes it easier and or cheaper for me. By the way, Andy, I'm going to have a special t-shirt made for you just because of this whole thing. And it's going to be the meme of instructions unclear, dick stuck in machine.
Fits me. That fits.
So that's kind of the rationale behind that. But we've got to be better. I've got to be better about telling people why I'm doing things. I believe the why is important in everything. So I got to be better about that.
Agree. So don't kill me because, I was talking about the O-ring and I put it on the actual, which I just did it right now on purpose, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine this. If you had an O-ring on one end and an O-ring on the other, and this O-ring holds it in place, and then your O-ring is here to put your fingers around. Just saying.
Yeah, I played with that.
Yeah.
There's
I'm going to redesign your whole thing right now, and he's going to be like, I want off this show.
For that particular, for the Mark III, it would work. There will be some assembly. It would make it a lot harder to assemble. And it would kind of, I don't know. I'll have to look at that. Honestly, before you told me that you did that, I never knew that was possible. I guarantee.
Instructions unclear.
Yeah. Dick stuck in O-ring.
Yes. Well, I mean,
there's jokes about that. So I don't have the luxury of spending money on a whole lot of things right now that would actually help make the company better. But this is going to be the next sticker that we release.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I want one.
Yeah, you'll get, trust me, you'll get one. We're going to lean into the jokes because everybody's like, oh man, you just got a cock ring down a string. And I'm like, okay, it's a 1 1/8 inch diameter O-ring. So if you can conceivably use it for the purpose that you're joking about.
Yeah. You got bigger issues.
Or
smaller issues.
Smaller issues. But I'm pumped. This is true. So
I guarantee some of the viewership at this point is like, what did we stumble into? And I'm like, bro, you've not experienced the awesomeness until you've had a conversation with Jack Clemens. So No, I'll look at that. I just don't know that it's there. There would be some assembly concerns, because I'm still going to have to use the cord to link the two O-rings.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'd be worried about over time is the tensile strength of the O-ring. I can tell you for a fact that those O-rings are going to break at 55 pounds of tensile strength every day. When we start pulling on them, I put them on force gauges and nearly killed myself a number of times trying to break these things, and it consistently. To find an actual force meter, like a fish scale, but that actually holds a specific measurement, you have to spend a couple of $1,000s. So I went on Amazon and I bought a small crane scale that goes up to like 500 pounds. So I set my camera up to record in slow motion the digital display, and I hung it from the beam. I used to be a rigger, so I hung span sets from my beam and then set up, all this stuff. And I ran a loop down and I just started stepping on it with my foot, and I broke about 20 O-rings in sequence, and damn near literally killed myself trying to do it, and was filming it in slow motion. I'd have to go back and be like, all right, it says 35, 38, 39, 35, and I'd have to catch this blurry little moment, like this nanosecond in time where, it finally broke at 55 pounds. So I'd be worried about the longevity piece. If we have to stretch the O-ring enough to get it up there to be as tight as it wants to be, is that something that is going to stay in that condition and not break over the length of time?
I can honestly
go ahead.
I can probably answer that question for you. So I'm in the frozen beverage business, and then we also do reverse osmosis, water softeners, and all that stuff. That's my paying job.
Nice.
So I work with these O-rings actually a lot.
Okay.
And they're very strong. They don't wear out that often, from my experience. And I think once they're on there, it's kind of the same thing with like magazine springs, right? You hear this whole thing like, don't store your magazines full of ammo, right? It's so stupid. But the reality is, the reason why magazines wear out is the expansion and contraction of the actual spring, which is what damages them. So when you wrap an O-ring around here, it's not going to expand and contract. It's not going to move. So essentially, it's going to probably last longer than the pepper spray is. And that's my opinion. But that's just something to look at. But
yeah, I'm now I know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Yeah.
You're welcome.
R&D.
Yeah.
Hey, so I noticed on there you have some tool ready retention rings. And on there specifically, you have, let me pull that back up. I navigated away from it. You have one for the Cloud MCH and the Mod Light. If I wanted to get a retention ring for just a, everyday, Phoenix, what am I looking at getting, and how do I set it up on this thing?
Okay. That's a really good question. There are way too many flashlights out there. I started with the models of stuff that I knew. So Surefire, Mod Light, Cloud Defensive, Streamlight. The problem is the other side of the problem is Phoenix and Nightcore and some of the other, or not Nightcore, I don't remember who it is. Some of the other companies, they will change their parameters. Those companies are like SIG. SIG will change their optics mounting platform at the drop of a hat and not tell anybody that they did it. I love SIG. No. So the company sometimes will change the outside diameter measurements. What I would do is actually, and this is why I was digging around, I wanted to find this. So this is one of our 6-inch loops, and that's a zip tie, right? So we're gonna do the same thing on the flashlight that we did with the Palm, and we're gonna find a place on the flashlight. And actually, I just recently did an IG video that I need to get onto the website. We're going to find a place. So if you look at your flashlight, you've probably got a couple of indentations underneath the tail cap, like little rings, and probably, right where the pocket clip is. I would write it either right over the pocket clip or right under the pocket clip. And the reason for that is I want the light to index back in my hand where the tail cap is going to pop. So some of these Streamlights have these lanyard holes right at the end of the tail cap, and I actually think I took them all off, because I didn't like it. Because that was one of the ways that I was telling people, like, hey, yeah, just run it through the end of the tail cap or run it through the little lanyard hole. But the problem is when we do that flip over the side of our hand to retain the flashlight when we have to do the mag change or I have to do anything else, because this is all about gun stuff. When we flip it back, the farther back that your loop is on the flashlight, the more you're going to have to come back and choke the light up, and it's going to take about another half second to reestablish your index on the light. So I'm a big fan of coming midway, at least a good 3/4 of an inch to an inch down on the body of the light itself to where we drop the retention ring, so that it makes it easier to re-index your light. That was a long way of saying, Jeremy, I would grab one of the MCH retention rings, and then I've just been telling people, put in the notes, send me a couple of zip ties. I have to think about it from a product standpoint and a website standpoint, because I don't want to make another page just to get like a retention ring with a zip tie, or I might just start throwing zip ties in the bags and people are gonna be like, why is there zip ties in here? Because I threw them in there because they're literally 1/10 of a cent.
So one of the thing, and I don't know, I'm gonna steal one from Andy, and I'll probably order a couple on your website when we get off of here tonight. But I don't know if this is standard. I don't know much about flashlights, but I'd imagine that most of the thread diameter is going to be pretty similar for the lights that are taking the 123As. But one of the, maybe not, correct, you know more about it than I do. But one of the things that I noticed is I have an O-ring there, right, to create that seal. So to Andy's point, but what I think I'm gonna try, and I'll give you feedback on it, is just running it through there, threading it down.
I would, so before you even try that, find out if you have the ability to back the tail cap off and still complete the circuit. So
yeah, I was going to say, you're not going to be able to close the cap.
Some have the space there. So your mod lights, your clouds, the Surefire EDC L2 and L1T actually have a space that would allow you to have the tail cap not completely flush. We ran into this because this is an old Surefire L2 or L4. So it was their executive series bodies, the small diameter ones. And this is super tight. It works. If I back this tail cap off 1/4 of a turn, the light doesn't work anymore. Unlike the mod lights or the clouds that have that shelf built in for the theorem, okay, so if you've got that, then you might be able to sneak that cord in there and be able to achieve that. That's just something that you're going to have to play with. That would be my preferred way to mount that, because that's going to give you the most tight indexable. I'm making up words now. Way to put the ring on there. A lot of it's just a learning process now, as I'm being exposed to more flashlights. My wife hates my Amazon account because we share it, and every now and then she'll look and be like, why did you order another damn flashlight? Like, because the customer asked me a question.
Tax write-off.
Tax write-off, yeah.
Yeah. You got to have income in order to write off taxes. I think you know that pretty well, right, Jeremy?
Yes, but if you don't have income, it offsets other income.
Well, yeah. So yeah, those would be my 2 suggestions. If you have the ability to get that, and that's why we use that's why we have the 2 different thicknesses of cord. So like we have our standard cord, which is a Type 95 paracord. It's 1.8 millimeter in cross section, and then like the Palm, the Mark III, that's all Atwood microcord. We call it thin cord because I didn't want to deal with the copyright of Atwood microcord. But we use Atwood. It's made in the United States, but this is a 1.18 millimeter 100-pound test cord that we buy from Atwood. Again, all of our stuff is U.S. sourced. My O-rings are U.S. sourced, which was not fun and not cheap. It was about twice as expensive to U.S. source my O-rings. And oh my God, try U.S. sourcing adhesive heat shrink. That you really get into the woods of manufacturers not telling you the complete entire truth, and you have to start looking through like the ROHS, which is the rules on hazardous substance stuff. And I learned more about that than I needed to, but I'm buying actual US made adhesive heat shrink because I'm an idiot. But yeah, so, it's all about that, just finding that happy spot. And I'll admit my personal bias has come into play a lot. I haven't messed with the Phoenix lights because I don't really like them a whole lot. The one thing I don't like about Phoenix is that dual activation button, or that light intensity button that's up near the head.
I don't know what the hell that does. I have no idea. I've carried this light for fucking years and I have no idea what it does.
So you've been really lucky because you've never accidentally changed the intensity of your light while it's on unintentionally. Teaching low light classes, we have guys who show up with those lights that have that mode switch button. So you turn it on and that should be a intensity adjustment button.
Just figured it out.
Yep. So
how do I change it back?
You got to cycle through the modes. You should actually, on the Phoenix lights, you turn it on and then you just hit the mode switch button, and that should cycle through modes.
I'll figure it out later.
Yeah. So congratulations. You did on the podcast what numerous students of ours have found out. Because I teach a lot of the times when I do low light, I do it with Eric Tweet from Archetype of the Gun. I AI and work with him a lot. And I don't like doing low light classes by myself. Teaching low light individually freaks me out because people do weird stuff in low light. But we intentionally don't tell students who show up with those lights about what's going to happen, because inevitably we're going to get them into live fire applications or live fire shoots and introduce a little bit of stress. And somehow their pinky or ring finger will come and mash on that as they're holding it, especially because when it comes to low light techniques, I'm a big fan of the neck or the chin index. So it's the after action project, right? So we got to talk about firearms training a little bit, and not just rings on strings. So I'm a big fan of the neck or the chin index. I like to come up right underneath the ear or right in the jawline and index the light to my head, because that's the way that's the best way that I have found and seen to keep my flashlight aligned with my gun. A lot of the times when I see people shoot with an FBI technique, right? And so we've got our pistol out here, we've got our FBI technique out here for the very valid reasons of, people are going to shoot at the light. So if my light's over here and they're shooting low on it, they're not going to hit me. The problem is now these two things are very disconnected, and I see people, if they're shooting an iron sight gun, I see them have a lot of trouble coordinating the sight picture and getting good hits, especially once we're out past 10 yards. And then I start seeing the light get disconnected from the actual aiming area. And from a cognitive level, you're having to split your attention focus, right? So you're, especially if you're shooting an iron sight gun, you're really kind of screwed, because you're having to focus on your iron sights and you're having to focus on your flashlight and where that light is pointed, and you're splitting your attention. Kind of the same thing that I've seen, and dudes will argue with me, like I'm absolutely 100% sure there will be some hate mail on this one. These are my opinions that I've seen as an instructor and a student. It's not gospel, it's not fact. I just prefer it. Yeah. Thumbs up. Harry's technique again. First of all, as a regular earth person, I am not a big fan of the Harry's technique, because it's no different than having a weapon mounted light on my pistol. And us regular earth humans need to live by the rule of we should not be pointing guns at things that do not absolutely need to have a gun pointed at them. Weapon mounted lights are cool. They're great for when we know exactly what we want to shoot. Every other aspect of it, no bueno. In 2007, I was a security guy and at a mall, and we had a violent altercation in the parking lot and felons with guns, multiple people in the car. But there was also a 5.5-month-old infant in a car seat in the car. And I watched a trained police officer search the car with their weapon-mounted TLR-1 and muzzle the baby because they were searching the car with their gun light instead of their handheld light. And luckily, I knew a couple of the cops there, and I said something, and that got dealt with. But one of the other cops was like literally almost had to hold me back because I was going to go over there and put my hands on that person and be like, you're pointing your fucking gun at a 5.5-month-old kid. Like that's not cool. You can't do that. But I shut up. My friend kept me shut up and kept me out of trouble, I think. So back to it though. So Harry's technique is that, hey, we're going to interlock the wrists. We're going to come over. We're going to create that more stable spot. But if you're looking actually right now, unless you really suck these in, this hand starts to drifting. And again, we lose that direct illumination of the zone of what I call the impact zone, or where we want the bullets to go. And what I find most of the time is, especially with ultra high candela lights, like the Mod Light OKW or the Surefire Turbos, Hogs, any of that stuff, people are going to shoot the hot spot, and the bullets are going to go where that hot spot goes. It's really hard for the brain to separate the gun from the hot spot, or if they're really good about it. Go ahead.
I was about to say the same thing. Like, I don't know a whole lot about low light stuff, honestly, but if you're doing that method and you're trying to use the flashlight to actually spotlight what you're doing, you've also got to take your eyes off the gun and focusing the gun that you're using. So you're using two different methods here. And just being somebody who's an ignoramus of the thing, it sounds bad and dangerous.
It's not necessarily bad and dangerous. Everything is LAPD, lots of police departments have been using Harry's for a long time, and it's very successful as a search technique because it keeps your light and your gun oriented in the same spot. As a searching technique, Harry's is really, really good, especially for high threat searches. So high threat warrant or building searches, it's fantastic. And it is certainly not a non-viable technique. It's just a lot more nuanced than people. It's a lot more complicated than people want to give it credit for, and they don't realize that there's a lot of mental concentration that goes into it. So that's why I'm a big fan of this neck index, because I'm just going to slave the light right here to my head, and now I'm going to bounce that head wherever I need it to go, and where that head is going, that flashlight is going. And once I get that alignment of my eyes to the hot spot of the flashlight, that shit's just automatically going to stay, and boom. And now I can come out here with the gun, and if it's an iron sight gun, I'm backlighting the sights. And yeah, if it's a high candela light, you're going to get a lot of backlighting off your sights, and you're going to get a little bit of glare. Oh well, there's no such thing as a free lunch. People need to get over this shit, right? They just need to stop believing. I'm going to channel Steve Fisher. People need to shut the fuck up and go shoot their guns. Okay. Like, let's stop arguing about these techniques on the internet and the subtleties, and like, well, I don't use the neck index because it backlights my sights, and then the glare off the back plate of my gun, blinds me. I'm like, go do that in the real world, please, before you start talking about these things, and do it intensively. Not just don't go fire 5 rounds. Like, if you are a concealed carrier and you have not shot in a low light or no light environment in the last 30 days, you're doing it wrong. Sorry, that's my opinion, right? Because we live like half of our lives in these intersectionalities of not enough light. When we come in from a super bright outdoors where the sun is shining and we've got great giant puffy, cotton ball clouds like Pat Rogers used to say, and the sun is it's a beautiful day, and we walk into the Stop and Rob, Quickie Mart, 7-Eleven, whatever, you have a transition in lighting conditions, and for about 15 to 20 seconds, maybe less, maybe more, depending on who you are, how old you are, how good your eyes are, anywhere from, let's say, 5 to 15 seconds, your eyes have to adjust to that, right? If you're coming out of that same Quickie Mart and now something's popping off in the parking lot, and you are inside a dimmer structure, and you've got a lot of sunlight here, and God forbid the light is, you know, straight up in front of you and shining into your eyes. That's a reduced input situation. You need to figure out, and I'm not saying like a flashlight's going to help for that, but like that's a situation that you need to think about, is these less than perfect. The problem with the range is almost always going to be in a perfect environment for you to train in, right? Because we want to mitigate the liability, we want to relax the risk, or we want to manage the risk factors and the risk scenarios at the range, because we need it to be a safe place, because idiots and assholes show up to the range and do stupid stuff. I was a range master for an RSO for a long time. But Jesus, I've got stories. We've all got stories, right?
Indeed.
You know, anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I think it was some good information that you gave us, and I think it's important, and it brings us back to the retention ring and the ability to use that. And I had a couple more things just to add.
Yeah.
Just a couple too was make sure that you're ordering the right ring size, because there is a medium and a large. Also, Dan, thank you for fixing that for me, because I ordered the large, and he's like, let me throw in a couple mediums too, because I seen your little tiny girl hands on podcast, so I'm gonna help you out. So he helped me out with those, so that was great. Make sure you order the right O-rings. The other thing, I'm just going to show you another idea that I came up with actually this morning, and I've been messing around with. So I've been using the new style, you know, hard shell wallet, you know, thing.
Yeah.
And with a money clip. So what I did is I actually threw a retention ring on the clip of it, because what I do is I'll walk in the morning, for example, and this is why I came up with it. Walked into the gas station, got me a couple lottery tickets and a soda, and I grabbed my card, I pulled it out of the wallet, and I sat the wallet on the counter, paid, and I turned around and I walked off. And luckily my brain said, hey, you forgot something stupid. So I turned around and I grabbed my wallet, and as I literally got in the truck, I said, I know, I'm going to put a retention ring on it. So I have that now, and I'm kind of playing with that too. So just another suggestion of something else you could throw on the retention ring. So I think it's a really good idea.
If you have the opportunity, and this is where I say, like, word of mouth and shameless self-promotion is, or, you know, shameless friend promotion, snap a decent quality picture. Because I don't, you have your wallet, I have my wallet of doom, which is full of shit and unpaid credit. No, maxed out credit cards.
Go to a Black Rhino Concealment front pocket wallet.
Dude, I have too much shit.
Get rid of all that shit.
I know, I have too much shit. No, dude, snap a halfway decent picture and send that to me, and you know, I'll use that for marketing and shit. I know what's happening. My freaking mouse pointer was on the mute button, and I have this big trackpad on my stupid iMac thingy, and I was tapping it. That's what's been happening. It's like, somebody's muting me. No, I'm muting myself like a dumbass.
That'll do it. Yeah, I'll definitely send you a picture.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
We get off here.
Or just post it and tag us. And I will say that the best marketing idea I've had yet, I co-opted Beyonce. Hashtag put a ring on it.
That's another t-shirt for you.
I have done a feasibility study or like kind of a risk assessment of whether or not I'd get sued. Because I kind of want to do a sticker of a rear silhouette of Beyonce holding a retention ring. So, you know, kind of small up here and kind of big down here, and then legs. I think I'd get sued if I did it the way that I wanted to. But yeah, the next
Satire.
set of merch.
I mean,
it's all satire.
Worst case scenario, you get a cease and desist. The stickers are already out there. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop. And then somebody else will pick them up and they'll steal them, and you'll still get credit. And allegedly.
Yeah. No, I'll no, the hashtag put a ring on it. That's going to go on the next set of shirts, or the first set of shirts. My wife actually was the coolest woman in the world. And for my birthday in April, completely unbeknownst to me, like, we have this problem that we're financially well enough, even though I've spent a lot of money making this company work. What I want, I get. What my wife wants, we get. Like, we we don't have we have problems getting presents for each other because we really don't want for anything. So for my birthday this year, she came out of nowhere, out of the blue. She got me the very first piece of retention ring apparel. She had this made for me. She jacked my logo off my site, and she made it, and it's got the website on the back and stuff. So the next version of the shirt, we're either going to do hashtag put a ring on it down the side, or we're going to put it on the back.
Very cool. I like that. So we're spent about 2 hours now on this podcast, and I think we could probably spend 2 more if we really wanted to. But Dan, I want to give everybody. Hey, we all do. That's why we're on here, I guess. But I want to give everybody their evening back, and you as well. So where can we find your website? And where else can we find you on the social medias? We kind of talked about that. So just give us a little bit of a breakdown of where we can find everything, find you, and start buying stuff. And by the way, I just went and bought the Nano.
I saw that. Thank you very much, dude.
That.
Yes, the retention ring Nano combo. Multi-tool. Lilu multipass. Guys, I am a walking, talking meme. I just want to get it out there. My favorite time of the day is scrolling through Facebook and answering questions in groups like primary and secondary or other stuff, flashlight groups. And I'll answer something and somebody will be like, oh man, that's really smart. And I drop the farmer's insurance dude in and be like, yeah, I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. So yeah, we are at retentionring.com. If you want to buy just a phone ring, we also got thephonering.com because it was available, and I linked it over to the phone ring webpage. We are retention_ring on IG. We are retention ring on Facebook. Facebook almost inevitably gets everything that I'm posting on IG because it's just an automatic pass through. I put up content on there on the daily. Almost every day. I try and take 1 day off a week from content generation just to save my soul. I am in groups under Daniel Easterday because I haven't changed my Facebook. So if you see me around, I have a little Lego minifigure that holds a rifle. It's actually a little Lego Pat Rogers that I made as part of a charity project after he passed away. So far, I think there's 200 and something odd Lego Pat Rogers out there in the wild. I did a whole run of them to benefit some of Pat's charities. I actually just made, guys found out about it years later. So Dave LeBear from Defensive Creations in Alliance, Ohio, fantastic gunsmith. If you're a 1911 guy or a revolver guy, check out defensivecreations.com. Defensive Creations. Yeah, Dave LeBear, Defensive Creations. I just sent him one, and apparently it made his Monday. He was having a really shitty Monday, and my package showed up, and he's like, I got a Lego Pat! Woo! So yeah, my profile picture is a little Lego dude with a rifle, and that's a Pat Rogers. But I'm around, and we are also retentionring.com, as you can see over there, and our email is info@retentionring.com. Feel free to email us any suggestions, jokes. I would prefer you keep the dirty stuff kind of away from that because my webmaster gets that info or that email as well. Thank you. You guys are on it, man. But we're around, and I want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate your guys' time. I didn't realize that I spent 2 hours talking about my stupid stuff, and thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. And Jeremy, just keep doing what you're doing with the RangeBuddy app. And Andy, it's been a pleasure getting to know you through this, and I look forward to seeing you on the range someday.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it was a great 2 hours. I don't think, it blew by. And that's one of the things that and I forgot, I normally ask in the pre-show, hey, do you have a hard out time? Because we're in Albuquerque. So it's 9:50 here. And I think you're in Chicago. So it's midnight their time. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's 10:50. It's only 11 o'clock.
I'm
not going to go to sleep anytime soon.
Oh. Awesome.
I still got to build shit.
Nice.
But yeah, thank you guys. And, 100% if there's anything that we can do at Retention Ring to help you guys out, please let us know.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Look forward to see the future innovations that you will pump out of Retention Ring.
Wallets. That's apparently going to be the thing now. Thank you, Andy. I will send you half a cent from every wallet sale that we make. How about that?
Hey, don't stay.
I'll take it.
Can I pay you in rings?
Nice. remember, it's your life.
So
It's,
I'm getting zip ties is what he means, half a cent per.
hey, that all adds up, man. Awesome. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time, Dan, and the insight. Remember, it's your life, it's your safety and protection, it's your responsibility. We'll see